If there isn't any other public comment,
I just have a question. Okay. Since we don't have a hazmat team right here in the area, what would happen in the event of a spill?
it would come from,
If, may I answer? If in fact there was a spill of a sizable amount that required a response, the response would come either out of Muskegon, or the response would come out of Kent County, out of Grand Rapids. Now, our township does in fact have an ordinance for hazmat cost recovery in case there is something like that. Whereas the person who causes the spill would be responsible to reimburse the total amount for equipment and personnel wages that would be needed to in fact mitigate the spill. The cost would not, under any circumstances, come out of the county or come out of the township budget.
Couldn't we just claim bankruptcy and?
Well, and let me say this, if I might, sir. One of the things we discussed in our October 1st meeting was to require the operator of that facility to have a surety bond. Now, what a surety bond does is you take a surety bond out, and if something happens where it's of catastrophic nature and the business goes bankrupt, and then with the surety bond, that leaves the property owners that are adjacent, that are affected, some access, some avenue to recover their losses. And that is something that we have in fact discussed.
Is that similar to an insurance policy?
Yes.
What about the event of a fire, a massive fire? Do we have the contain it?
that is one of the reasons why the tank is now going to be underground instead of above. So it'll be basically just like a gasoline station, where the tank is going to be in ground. With it up above, if somebody were to run into it, that could have been a problem. Now, it's lesser of a problem than more than what you'd have at the gas stations that we have.
I appreciate you answering my questions, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to speak in favor of a business being able to improve its business and provide, more jobs. If I understand that he has to hire somebody
Yes.
to oversee, and I can't imagine that it's inherent for a business owner to take care of his property, but also it's inherent to take care of his neighbor's property if his goal is to stay in business, not to pollute. So I'm sure he would do a good job of protecting his property and his neighbors.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it also add value to the property?
In some aspects, it will. Some aspects, it's like having a swimming pool. Is it an asset or is it a deficit? If the people have little teeny kids, it might be a deficit. If they have all adults, a pool is a very nice thing. But when you go to sell a house, pool is normally not an asset.
What were some of the takeaways?
Because people don't want, it costs a lot of money to take care of the pool.
I'm talking about a cash pump.
Well, it still takes a lot of money because you gotta have somebody to run it, operate it, maintain it. There's cost involved just to have it. If he's told no gas at all, there's costs there that he's going to have for that system.
Would there also be pumps for vehicles that come in on the
No.
street?
Only marine.
Sure.
When you guys did the feasibility study, did you look at other similar situations in Michigan?
Yes.
And-
Not only Michigan, but other states.
Okay.
And the other thing I found most unusual, that there is not another marina pumping fuel in Newaygo County.
And when you looked at the other places in Michigan, were there a lot of accidents?
Minor spills. I did not find an instance of an in-ground installation, which is why we recommended strongly that we go with an in-ground installation of a catastrophic event. nor did I find it in another state of a catastrophic event.
Were there catastrophic events if they were above ground in Michigan?
The possibility for that increases exponentially.
But were there?
Yes.
There were, okay. How many? Do you know?
No, ma'am, I do not. Other than the fact that when I was running Camp Perry training site and I had to put them all in, I went through fire hoops to deal with that and put them in. Because throughout the United States, there have been instances of above-ground tanks being catastrophic. In-ground tanks are not prone, although they're prone to leakage, like any tank is, they're not prone to the catastrophic event that you get with an above-ground tank.
Do EPA regulations require that a tank that's underground be encased in another tank, so to speak, to absorb any possible leaks?
I am not an expert on that, and I cannot talk for the EPA other than in dealing with Mr. Westfall and dealing with the DEQ down in Grand Rapids. I believe Mr. Westfall has dotted his I's and crossed his T's exceptionally well.
This has the main tank where the fuel is in, then it has a liner, which also has sensors in it with gauges and everything. So if the inner tank should leak or do something, it sets off alarms, and you have another tank that encases that. So it's a double line tank with sensors all in the center.
Could you look at it as like a, take a keg of beer, be familiar with a keg of beer, put that in a big bathtub. Is that similar to the scenario we're talking about?
Basically, it's not a big basket, it's a tank within a tank with a liner around it, with sensors all inside of that, with gauges on the outside.
So safety is number one. Go ahead.
The feasibility study, did that cost the township any money?
No. The people that did it basically did it on their own time.
Thank you, whoever did that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
So as I understand it, then it's not really a question of whether he can or can't, it's a question of how we keep the community safe at this point.
That was our main goal, is to make sure that everything was done so that the public was our first thought. So we want to see every business in Croton and the area be able to expand or thrive. We just want to make sure everyone is safe. If there's no other questions, I'm going to close it to the public participation and let the board discuss and deliberate on the actions using our review standards. Although our review standards, because we have had, this being the third meeting, we have already made a list of questions and restrictions.
I just have the original one that we have, there's just a few changes.
On that list too, we did not address if we, in fact, are going to require a surety bond.
It could be that or some kind of insurance.
Correct. Either one.
Yeah. But I think so. So I'm going to go through some of the restrictions for the expansion. And like I say, we went over these on October 1st, and but now these are going to end up being part of our minutes, which then makes them
what we're going to have